The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It is another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, I hope you had a very wonderful weekend. As usual, I'm your regular host. And with me here in the studio are our in-house analyst, Silas Ezewu and Chibuzo Ukaibe.
Thank you.
Well, the big issue of the day is the growing number of APC presidential aspirants and the issues at stake. Today, Senate President Ahmed Lawan and the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timi Silva, have purchased the Presidential Nomination and Expression of Interest Fund of the All Progressive Congress to join the other contenders who are presently jostling for the party's presidential ticket. And of course, this brings us to the rising number of presidential aspirants in the APC, which is unprecedented in the history of any ruling party in Nigeria. That has become a source of concern for most Nigerians who are grappling to fathom the true intentions of picking the 100 million naira funds, as well as the ability of the governing party to be able to manage this army of presidential aspirants that have grown by the day. Last weekend, following the entry of the quartet of Ekiti State Governor Kayode Fayemi, former national chairman of the party Adams Oshomole, and the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and Jigawa State Governor Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, as well as former Zamfara State Governor Sani Yarima. The number of aspirants has grown to about 26 now. And of course, despite the price for purchasing this form pegged at 100 million naira, most of the politicians in APC have remained undeterred in going to pick the forms. And the race for Buhari's successor seems to have become an all-commerce affair in the APC as the list of the presidential aspirants grow daily. Most Nigerians say the presidency or the presidential seat of the country has been commonized by this army of politicians going to pick the APC presidential form. Well, it seems that the whole thing is getting out of control, because just like you wake up and begin to count the number of APC presidential aspirants, you might even end up giving wrong figures, because as you're counting, they are picking forms. By the time you count and say they are 10, about 3 have picked again, making the number 13. So sometimes people say the idea of giving the numbers is unnecessary, because as you give it, you are unaware that people want to pick the form. And we have never seen this kind of a thing in the country.
The aspirants are growing at a geometric.
Thank you very much. Astronomical pace. What could be the reason for this kind of craze for the presidency?
Despite the 100 million.
Despite the money being pegged at a very exorbitant rate.
Well, I don't know how to allocate what could be responsible, other than to assume that perhaps they believe that they have a chance at succeeding Buhari, who will be on the ballot by 2023. Obviously, the office of the president in Nigeria is quite influential. Perhaps one of the most. It has been said to be one of the most influential in the world. How they come about that, it's neither here nor there. But from within, you see how the glamour and the dominance of the federal system, and how the president is almost like a monarch in some sense. So perhaps that might be an attraction for why people feel okay, because of course one would want, the natural thing would be for one to assume that everybody wants to make Nigeria better. They would want to do the normal things, the regular things, fight corruption, ensure economic blue bliss, ensure unity, because that has been the narrative all through. So you ask yourself, if everybody knows that these are the problems to do, and the difference in how to approach or how to get there might not be so much different, why then would everybody want to do it? Particularly at a time when Nigeria has never faced this kind of uncertainty in it. I think in recent times, Nigeria has never been more uncertain as to things that we were quite sure of before. Security, even the divisive nature, has never been this entrenched. So you ask yourself, why would anybody want to embark on this course of trying to, salvage the country and make things right?
And inherit this
When
kind
you
of
know that,
challenges.
exactly, when you know that you can support the next man to do the same thing. We are all in the same party. And then you have your 100 million naira tag, and everybody's still tumbling over, and they're all still tumbling over themselves to
And the governing party is making huge harvest from this.
It's just amazing.
I think reports are saying that the APC now would have realized almost 50 something billion for only presidential and governorship forms.
It's just mind boggling to see that. And the sad part is, as we speak, and we've been saying this since last year, I think, that it gets to a point where governance ceases and it's all just politics. And I think we are there. That is why we can say, well, in this case, perhaps governance ceased a long time ago, because the strike question is still there, the security crisis is still there. But now I think it just got worse. It just got worse, because it's as if it's a case of everybody for himself as far as the ticket is concerned. That is the only thing bothering everybody in the ruling party at the moment. And it's quite not good. It's definitely not good for the polity and for the image of the party.
The list is very long. And if you want to begin to list them now, I think most of the time we have here. We have Vice President Yemi Osibanjo, of course, national leader of the APC, Tinubu, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, the State Governor, David Umahi, Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige.
All of them in government.
How many governors, how many ministers?
Nobody is resigning.
Governor Professor Ben Ayade, former President of Senate Ken Inamani, former Imo Governor, the Senator Uche Sokorocha, the State Governor Yaya Bello, Minister of State for Education, Emeka Nwajubia, Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Ogbonna Onu, Senator Ajayi Borofis, the only female person in the race, Uju Ohanenye, former Governor of Zamfara State, and Senate President Ahmed Lawan, Jigawa State Governor Mohammed Badaru Abubakar. Name them. You can't
even there are rumors that the former president are also Jonathan come and pick his own form soon. So
former president, good luck, Jonathan.
So there's no telling.
They say so.
So now the idea is that most Nigerians say, well, perhaps President Muhammadu Buhari may have used his technical endorsement of all these aspirants to boost his democratic credentials. Yes, to make it look as if he's a true Democrat who will always open the door for all inclusiveness and absolute participation. But most Nigerians say that will not turn out to be a recipe for crisis. The governing APC. At least let's see what you can make out of this.
Well, the way I see it is that if you're a leader, you have to do what's called succession planning. You have to plan for who takes after over when you stop, so that the values that you hold, the comment you have run, holds dear, is sustained, not thrown away. Because through every comment, things are the best that ever happened. Even when statistics are glaring that Nigeria is going down here, but in their heart, some of them are living in denial. So that's why I see some people say they want to continue from where the business stopped. They say they want to continue this good work you have done, and so on. So what I'm thinking is that um, I think you're right when you say the president's seeming withdrawal or not projecting a candidate is making every Tom, Dick, and Harry feel that they have a chance. So let us jump to the ring. If we win it, fine. So I see it as a case of pretenders and contenders. There are those who are serious contenders. Among that is there are those who want to this like it can go a kind of yes, that's the same
comparing, I think.
yes, kind of I belong to this class. I can throw away 100 million.
A one-time presidential aspirant.
The fact that when one of the things they gave the management of APC gave for pegging them or to kind of discourage every talk with their hand for money. But since they have turned
Discourage on serious
yes
candidates.
yes, but it seemed to have turned the other way around that everybody is now rushing to pick it to show that you know the thing with Nigerians is that when you make a law in Nigeria, the average person does not look for how to pay the law. They're looking for how to bypass that law and show that in Nigeria, if you pay the law, you are nothing. But if you want to show that you pick somebody in Nigeria, it's to live above the law. Okay, the law, this law does not apply to you. You approve it. So the way they are rushing to pick it, what surprised me that even people who were going for Senate, I read reports where Oshomole was angry for Senate, and some people are saying, no, don't come more, do this for us, this and that, in their local politics in those states. So, but I did not start going for president. So, it's fishy. It's also making it look as if it's unserious. A crowd, could have a crowd like that. Managing a crowd is not difficult. So I don't know if you APC that. The only thing that people can envy them is that they are making a lot of money from the business. Seriously. Remember that they even postponed the closing time. So that more people can bring 100 million and give them. And making the price. And it doesn't seem as if because this 100 million is not refundable. It's not. Unless they can make a change and refund like in the chairmanship. I don't know whether I got the money yet, but they said I'm going to give their money back, those who purchase the phone. So these people are throwing this money into this basket. To some of them, like they attempt to show that look, they belong to this class. If this person running for president, it's better than me. Person for president, is it 100 million? I drop it. Take it. I take it. Actually, I can show that I'm this class. Don't count on me. So in a country where a lot of people have made money from politics, the money you have not sorted for, you can't wait to because it's not your own. But if you have, how many drug service, for instance, industrialists, those who own companies and jobs, not money they got from politics, from holding position, I buy 100 million iPhone. How many of them are in that? Is this someone who has been, the community has been in government for 24 years? 8 years as speaker, 8 years as governor, 8 years as minister. If you are not would you come and say I want to bring 100 million and throw away? That's all. I'm not patronizing and rich. I'm not against naira and will go and gamble with it. This kind of I'm not his experience, like he says, he has been a legislator, has been a minister, has been governor. What I'm saying that many of them have had political position which they have used the advantage of it to make money that is beyond their keep. I saw one post where someone was saying, what kind of people are Nigerian? You are buying a 100 million form, which you can lose. And they now calculate the president's salary and it came to just about 14 million naira in a year. So in 4 years, you're not even going to get half, if it is high, of what is paying for just a form. They don't yet the campaign. They know what the money are going to throw around to the delegates and for the general campaign.
Just for purchase of form.
Just to I want to. you know. Okay.
Well, let's just
It's
quickly
really,
take a short break.
it's really mind-boggling, and I hope that that's light at the end of the tunnel for all this.
Well, we'll take a short break, but before we come, when we come back, I think we'll have to start looking at the controversy and the rumbles, the development that generated in the country, because it has even pitched politicians against themselves, like the Southwest calling for a meeting, and then in that meeting, feelers got was that the Southwest leaders tried to see how they can reconcile Godfather and Godson, that is Vice President Yemi Osibanjo, and
under Aspirants also.
APC leader Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And we'll look at all that, and then we have the CBN governor who has gone to court and failed to secure a court order pronouncing his action illegal. Well, let's just quickly take a short break. We'll be back in a moment. But before we do so, we'll urge our viewers to contribute constructively to the issue, the conversation on the big issue, by their way of comment. Don't go offline. We'll be back in a moment.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Welcome back. We are still on the Big Issue in Leadership Podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day is the growing number of APC presidential aspirants and the issue at stake. There had been this talk. Somebody said, if I have 100 million naira, instead of to go buy that form, I'd rather become the president of my family. We have seen how the purchase of funds have been causing trouble for certain individuals. The CBN governor is in the eye of the storm. Today, the court failed to grant him an order declaring his decision to purchase the form legal and constitutional. Because as a public servant, who is actually the man at the helms of the affairs of controlling the country's currency, most Nigerians feel that on moral ground, it is very wrong, risky for the country for such a man to be partisan in politics. You have the Vice President Yemi Osibanjo and his perceived godfather, former Lagos State Governor Ahmed Bola Tinubu, at loggerheads with themselves. And most Nigerians are now worried that the way it's going, it's likely that the governing APC will not be able to manage its success. So, what do you think about this line of thought?
Which line of thought now? The number of
The aspirants
okay.
indicating that the governing APC might not be able to manage its success.
Well, yeah, it depends. People might say it's a different ball game. That is, the National Convention and the presidential primaries. But I still do think that at the end of the day, it's about how the most influential figure in all of the party handles the matter that might, to a large extent, not totally, but to a large extent, determine whether they will have a peaceful, um, maybe not so much of absolute peaceful arrangement, but measurably peaceful outcome. Because it's not enough to do the convention. It's about the post-convention, the post-primaries. I think that is where the challenge really is. It's not about conduct, it's about what happens after. So all of what is playing out now, of course, everybody, all of the aspirants would have different thoughts in the back of their minds, like Mr. Silent has been pointed out, the pretenders and the contenders, because the pretenders will want to see what they can get from this at the end of the day. You know, if they know, okay, I'm not going to be a candidate, what do I get? I have a bargaining chance now because I did purchase this form. But again, they'll be looking at what happened with the national convention. The
Yes.
guys,
The aspirants,
now, have they been settled?
whether they are paid to return the 20 million they use in purchasing that
So,
form.
so those are factors they'll be looking at. And if they don't see that, therefore means they're going to go all the way. So that is why people feel, okay, the convention, the alcohol convention and this one might be different because the outcome of the convention will be an opener to this. But like I said, a critical figure to how it will pan out is the president. So there'll be a lot of pressure on the president. And the pressure will be more so that most of the aspirants coming out now, the story around their declaration, particularly for those in his cabinet and some who are perceived to be close to him, there's the notion that he gave his blessing for them to go contest. Now, it could mean a lot of things to different people. It could mean a lot of things, even to the aspirants, because you weigh what the president has told you against the backdrop of how close you are to him. So the signaling or the messaging from the president at this level is quite interesting. And it will be much more fascinating to see how he rallies all of that, all of his loyalists, to say, okay, guys, let's call this, let's bring this home. Let's see how we can manage our ambitions, and it will be really interesting to see how he manages that, particularly when he fibers to, I give you my blessing to go, I give you my blessing to go, and gets to that point where if you are, why would you think it's better than me to do the job? So it's a very intricate matter.
Thank you very much, Chibuzo. You spoke about depending on how close you are to the president, but considering the crowd of people buying the presidential form, who among them should not be close to the president? Most of them are his ministers, governors, his political allies, and the rest. So at least it's assumed that they are all close. And Silas spoke about the president not having an anointed son. No, I think the president has. Remember, the royalty said he will not disclose who he is preferred.
No, I said by allowing the space, open contest,
Giving them the impression that he does not have.
yes, everybody should go around.
What they should
Everybody now train themselves to the ring.
This is a situation where you use your tongue and count your teeth. And what I know, it's like there's no way.
But it's not that he has small close to him. So each person may feel that
You feel that I'm
so it might just mean that you might pick. In fact, this governor of Cross River, he said he just want to visit for talk about other things. And the president asked him if he's not running, and he said he wants to run too. So and they speak other things. You don't know what the president told him. So obviously he was not going for the presidency until he had a chat with the president. Like, I'm not joining the race. You are good enough to be president. I'm come and say, okay, I'm running. But I don't know where I picked from already.
The president is encouraging them to run.
So everybody join the race. They want to collect other money.
You might eventually see the president. They will ask you, are you not running?
It should have been a good experience because if the party had handled most of its challenges, it would have been a good way of perhaps that could be another thing. How to how do I put it now? How to market the party.
Mm.
You know, if everybody across, because some of the PDP also did. A lot of people bought forms. Now they are everywhere making noise and galvanizing people. It's also that process.
Yeah.
The irony with the APC and perhaps even the PDP too, is that these two parties have dominated the scene since 99. And so if they go about sensitizing people to participate in the process, of course, it is because they have the resources to do so.
Of course. Yeah.
But if Nigerians really have to sit and reflect, what will these people be telling us? That is the irony. And perhaps it's even worse for the APC because they are the incumbent party. The bulk of things they promised to do, they have not done. In any case, things appear to be getting worse. The petrol queues the fuel queues are just
No need to count.
the airports,
No need to count.
something else, the flights.
Education.
ASU strike is there. Everything is just in
This
a shambles.
security is
Security.
So that's the irony. That's the
These
irony.
people are
How
going
do they go
to want
about
to inherit
telling
those
people-
challenges.
Exactly. How do they go about telling people?
They
is what
could
we're
be
going
backing on the fact that Nigerians have a kind of general amnesia, and they quickly forget. It can be government that once you guys come in and spread some of the money they're getting now, they get 30 billion, and they throw some of them around. Some people will just forget the anger and go for them.
That's the
So
irony.
that's one thing.
And I think the President Muhammadu Buhari, he's not even helping the matter at all. Imagine see what Silas just said now. And of course, the Cross River State Governor did say that he went to greet President Buhari, and Buhari asked him, "What are you doing here? Are you not contesting?"
I forgot to take from
Yes, and somebody was talking about one funny headline he saw. Somebody mistakenly, I don't know whether it was a mistake or that is how he saw it. Say 2023 presidency, Rotimi Amechi picks race. Then I told the president, how would you say the person is wrong if that kind of headline? Well, at least we have heard headline like Senator Lawan set to run for 2023 presidency. Most times we've heard journalists asking questions, why are you running? You understand? So if somebody says somebody picked race, that's a headline. And especially when President Muhammadu Buhari is asking people to pick race here or to run. Before
you also like when I say about containers and pretenders, if you look at if you switch from the language, the things that are holding the argumentation, they are reaching out to the party and to the presidency. You can see actually that it appears that some people are being floated into the race by some other powerful pickpockets to model the process and cause confusion there because the narratives are changing and that's what they could be trying to affect. Michelle was saying this rotation should work. I don't know. But now, see so many people are trying from everywhere. You find out that narrative will become subsumed in the whole thing.
And even the concept of consensus might become a bit easier because by the time they get to that point,
and
you might see some of the aspirants begin to push for consensus.
And they have the one. Whoever give them money to go and buy the forecast, they cannot say this person.
Yes, I think
those are the things that
I think this should bring us to the
and some people who have said they want to present at all costs. It's they're ready to spend 50 billion just to present for 1 week. It doesn't care. So that company can put money on the ground and say, look, just go and pick the form.
I think this should just bring us to the last thing we should just look quickly before we round up, and that is the fact that the unsettling number of aspirants just going to take over from President Buhari has even raised concern on the real motives of these aspirants, Mr. Silas or Chibuzosi. While some analysts believe that some of these aspirants are in the race to truncate or to displace the likely chances of others. There are others who also argue that some of them want to use their presidential aspiration to negotiate for other positions so as to remain relevant in politics after 2023. And of course, on the other hand, elders and leaders of the southern part of the country have raised concern that the high number of aspirants from the southern part of the country could divide the southern delegates and give the north an advantage in the APC primary. And of course, the fear is further fueled by the fact that the APC has refused to expressly directly zone the ticket to it the south. The idea that this is zoned to the south everything is based on probability. It's still under speculation. The motives of this aspirant, one would begin to wonder, is it possible that somebody would join the race just to displace another? The chances of what do you think?
In politics, nothing is not so much discussion. And when desperation sets in, you know, there's so much that an aspirant can sacrifice to ensure that he gets the outcome. So I wouldn't totally rule that out.
Well, challenge, what do you think? I don't know if you've seen this and that before, rather.
I said something close to this just now. Where I said that some people it could be their political strategy to get more of their allies into the race. They have planned the mission so that along the way, you know, they'll have advantage. So honestly, I do not believe that all this want to praise them. But there must be a reason where they're all rushing to buy the films. And that reason will show up.
The next couple of days.
Yeah, by the time go to front, you'll see it's there. Maybe it's that game.
Well,
so the deep pocket.
Well, the idea of the astronomical rise in the number of presidential aspirants of the APC is still unfolding. And of today, we have recorded about 2 or 3 candidates purchasing the presidential form. And tomorrow is the last day for closure, for purchase of these forms. And as events unfold, we will begin to know the real motive behind the rush for the APC presidential ticket. Well, this is where we draw the curtain for today's program. Thank you for keeping tab with us. And of course, we would like to thank our in-house analysts for addressing the big issue to which we join us same time tomorrow for another edition of this program. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 08036